Welcome to this week's edition of the Mike Brey Show. I'm your host, Tony Simeone, joined by the head basketball coach, Mike Brey. Coach, you're coming off a week where you got two wins, two very different wins. One on the road at Clemson where you played some great defense, and then a shootout at home against Boston College in overtime. Just what was your takeaway from the week?
That's a good way of putting it, Tony. There's no question. We really defended at Clemson, and we got off to such a great start. And finished. We really finished. Anytime they made a run and their crowd got into it, we had a great offensive possession. Of course, the Boston College game, I don't know how much defense we played. I think you got to give some credit to Boston College really shooting the ball well. But we figured out a way to win. And that's really what this group has done when they've been, under the gun, so to speak, in the second half.
It's scoreboard watching season. I'm always keeping a close eye on Duke. You held serve with them. You're tied at the top of the ACC standings with 5 games left. I just feel like when I talk to you and the guys around the team, now that you're in the final stretch of the season, you guys are leaning into this. You're really accepting the challenge of trying to win the regular season. How much does that mean to you guys, and how much are you focused on it?
Big time focus on it, and it keeps you focused on what is going on day to day and not bracketology or Brooklyn, right? I mean, we're in it. You get a trophy. I told them the other day, it's the same size trophy as the one in 2015 for winning the tournament if you win the regular season. So we seem to be chasing those guys from Durham, North Carolina, and we love it.
Coach, appreciate it. When we come back, we'll break down both wins against Clemson and Boston College. This is the Mike Brey Show presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's game breakdown segment. We're going to first look at the Clemson game, Coach. Second time you were playing Clemson, first time going on the road to play them. When you got ready for this game, what stuck out from them on film? And of course, the last time you played them, what'd you have to key on as you got set for the Tigers?
Well, as you prepare for them coming off the game here, we played a lot of zone against them, and it really helped us. But little did we know Blake Wesley was going to just be shot out of a cannon. That happens, and when it does, you just ride it as a coach. And even more importantly, I think his teammates were like, keep going, Blake, and we rode him hard to give us a really good cushion early.
We've talked about him a lot lately, how he's still letting the game come to him, maybe taking better shots, even in the midst of when he wasn't shooting the ball well. You mentioned his run. It was 18 points in the first 8 minutes. He made all of his first 6 shots. Just what was working for him specifically? What allowed him to get off to such a great start?
Still great shots and teammates that found him. We really have a very good passing team. But I also think there was a little chip on his shoulder hearing about, he can't shoot it, his shot. He's a competitive guy. Again, the choices and the shot selection, I think, are why he was 4 for 4.
I want to ask about one play that we're going to get a chance to see later in Irish Intel. It was after he'd made the 18 points. He then drove the ball down the middle, made a great pass to Prentice Sub because it seemed like all 5 defenders were keyed on him. It made it a 28-11 game at that point, forced a Clemson timeout. What'd you see on that play that gave you guys a 17-point lead?
I think that's the growth of Blake. He gets to that lane now, and he knows he's making better decisions. And his teammates know if they get their feet set and their hands ready, he's going to find them. And so I think he's had a great balance between when to attack and try and finish and maybe get fouled because it's hard to deal with him at the rim, and when to kick it to somebody open. That has been an area we've coached him on, and I think he's responded very well to that.
This is the second straight road game. We go back to NC State the week before where you got off to just an outstanding start. It was 19-3, I believe, against NC State, 28-11 against Clemson. How valuable is that to get off to these great starts on the road? Because these teams at home are eventually going to find their footing and give you a counterpunch.
Well, there's nothing like maybe taking a crowd out of it early and having the crowd wonder, and then the opposing team wonder if it's their night. And you're right, we've had 2 where we've kind of punched them early and got out of the gate early. I also think this group really likes playing on the road. We have the best road record in the ACC. They kind of like silencing a crowd, and it's been neat to see their road demeanor.
Clemson, of course, chipped away a little bit, but it was still a 10-point lead at halftime, 38-28. Always interested when you're on the road, and you have been playing well. What's the message to the team in the locker room as you got set for what you knew was going to be a difficult second 20 minutes?
Continue to guard the arc and keep them from getting going outside the arc, and make Hall, their big guy, who's a gifted guy, and other than Dane Goodwin, I'd say he's the most improved player in the league. Just keep making him take tough twos, and because I don't think they're going to be able to score enough. I also thought our offensive possessions, every time they put some game pressure on us, got it to 8-7, 9, we had a really smart and clean offensive possession to score and kind of, kill their hope.
One of the storylines going into this game was the fact that Nate Laszewski was going to be limited. He came off the bench for you after missing the Louisville game with that lower leg injury. We talked even before the game. One of the small silver linings of an injury like that, you never want to see anybody get hurt, is the fact that some of your guys, Cormac Ryan, Trey Wirtz, were getting some more minutes, some more comfortable play. You saw Trey in the NC State game immediately kind of benefit from that. In this game, I thought he gave you a great game as well. 8 points off the bench. What did you see from Trey as he's gotten more opportunities with Nate going down?
It's interesting how that happens. A guy goes down and other guys get more minutes. Trey Wirtz is a 1,000-point scorer in college basketball. He's played a lot of basketball, and I think more opportunity helps him, and we want to get him in there more. He is one of our better decision makers with the ball if you look at his assist to turnover, and we feel he's a really good shooter, and he's improved defensively. He's become more physical on the defensive end, which, helps keep him in the game longer.
One of the guys you mentioned just prior to that was Dane Goodwin, who only had 3 points in the first half, but man, he really exploded in the second. It always seemed like if he has a quiet first half, he's going to come out right at the beginning of that second half and really spark you, and he did that in this game. He's such a calming presence for you, so reliable. What'd you see from him in this performance?
Calming and assassin-like. He is really kind of a calm, poised, no emotion assassin, and I thought his buckets, when they were trying to make a run and thinking they had a shot, were just demoralizing to Clemson. And he loves being in that position. Credit his teammates for finding him because they know he can deliver in those situations.
One more guy I wanted to point out who played really well, mentioned him a little bit earlier, was Cormac Ryan, just making his start with Laszewski on the bench, and then hadn't been in double figures in 13 games since the North Carolina game here at home. He gave you 13 points. He always gives you good defense. We talk about he's accepted this role, but when he sparks on offense, it seems like you guys are almost unguardable on the defensive end.
Well, I think he's really benefited. Again, he's starting. That's uplifting. The minutes are more. And we've wanted him to go and make some plays more. I think he's always defended and rebounded for us from day one. I think the game has slowed down for him a bit offensively, and he's seeing things when his shot is there, when to go in and make a play. It's cleaner and it's calmer. And right now, he's a very confident guy.
In the second half, they got it down to 7 a couple times, and you said the possessions were just really timely. When you needed one, you got a great shot. You won by 15. It's early in the season. You were winning road games by maybe a point or two, going to overtime in Atlanta. Now you're walking out of buildings with double-digit wins on the road. You almost expect to go in there and get it done. To win the way you did, what was your takeaway as a coach?
I'm really proud of our group. I mean, their ability, I just really think our advantage in this league and beyond is our ability to focus and concentrate. I think a lot of it is you have some older, mature guys who know what they got going on. They got a chance to do some special things, and they're becoming special. And they just really, really concentrate. And I think we're able to concentrate over 40 minutes and focus better than most of the teams we've played.
The last one I have for you is just there were a couple milestones with this win for your team that I think are interesting. It was 7 true road wins, which tied the most at the time in all of Power 5 basketball, which tells you a lot about this team. And it was also your 7th consecutive game in conference holding an opponent to 65 points or less. Defense has been a huge focus for you this year. When you hear those numbers, just do you sit back and go, okay, we are really accomplishing something here, and it's the stuff that we set out to accomplish at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, you feel good, Tony. We had to make strides on that defensive end. That was the focus all spring and summer, and as I've said, Anthony Solomon has been great in that department, and as has Tony Weish with our zone and teaching that. But I think on the road especially, we have been much more focused on our defense and defending people early, and then being efficient on the offensive end gives us a little bit of a lead, and then you start feeling good.
Coach, appreciate it. When we come back, we'll break down the thrilling overtime victory over Boston College on the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time to continue this week's game breakdown as we shift our focus to the Boston College game at home here, Coach. Before we get into this specific game, the storyline coming in, I thought we talked about it before this game, was the last Boston College game, which was a real inflection point in the season. A tough loss on the road that dropped you to 3-4. You bounced back really amazingly after that. The win over Kentucky, and then you won 15 of your next 18 leading into this one. So what was the message to the team as you got set for what I imagine was a game where they were looking for some revenge?
Yeah, the easy message was revenge and payback, and I tried to get us a little bit away from that, even though competitors want another shot at it, and kind of focus it on, we got to handle our business because Duke won the night before, and we want to keep pace in this regular season championship chase. As the game got closer, I'm sure payback was really part of it, and the game starts. And you could see maybe why, even on December 3rd, and we've changed a lot since then, they're a hard matchup for us. They're hard for us to guard. Their driving, their penetration, and we were on our heels the whole night. We've never fouled so much. Yeah. A team that doesn't foul much. We had guys in foul trouble. We haven't had that situation. And I'm thinking to myself the last 5 minutes of the first half is we're really going to have to score to escape tonight. And eventually we scored enough because we really couldn't defend them much.
Let's talk about the first half. Dane Goodwin, who we just talked about against Clemson, gave you a great second half, just carried it right over into the first half of BC, got off to a quick start. Just feels like your team senses who's got the hot hand. He was the one with it early, and he got you going with some double figures in the opening half.
Yeah, I think this group, and I give Hub, and Wesley has now started to join that party as well. They know their weapons around them and how to get it, and definitely Prentice, let's get Dane in this, let's get Paul on a post-up, let's look at this, He has a great feel of kind of orchestrating stuff, and Dane is one of those guys that just can explode for you, and he can keep you in it single-handedly offensively.
You guys were up 23-15, and I'm thinking at that time, okay, this is the new Notre Dame team. They're going to pull away. They're going to take care of this team at the bottom half of the ACC. And then they went on a 28-16 run to end the half. I'm sure, like you said when we talked before starting here, you knew they were going to give you something because the matchup is so tough. What did you see from them? I know you said they make it tough. You guys put you in foul trouble. They made it tough for you. What did they do specifically in the second portion of the first half to give themselves a halftime lead?
I think they really rattled our offense with their defense. They have the athletic ability to come out and really be physical defensively and pushed us out. And I think that we couldn't get into any scoring routine. They had a couple transition plays where we couldn't get back. We tried some zone. They drove our zone. We go man. They drove our man. And what has come down to a lot of times, the book on us has been, especially when we're in man-to-man, make 3 or 4 passes and drive somebody or post somebody and back them down. We've been dealing with this for a while. Overall, we've been able to keep it under control, but they gave us the most trouble in a while.
So when you're in the halftime locker room, down by 4, you kind of know you're going to be in a game now. What was the message and what were the adjustments you tried to make going into the second half?
I said to our guys, you know what, I love this for us. When's the last time we've been down at half? Nobody could remember. So it's great. We need to experience this. We're down at halftime. I said, now, I've come in the last couple games and said they got 28 at halftime. They got 26 at halftime. These guys got 43, fellas. I said, we got to do a little better job on that other end of the floor, I said. And then offensively, we're going to get away from our motion, and open is our other set where we're ball screening and driving. And Prentice got us started with just going right down the pipe early. I thought we had to play different offensively.
I was going to ask you about that very specific play. He scored. I looked at the clock. It was 8 seconds in the half. He just went. He didn't have a very big offensive first half. Gave you some great points, obviously, we'll talk about here in the second half and overtime, but it just seemed like that set the tone. That bucket right away said, okay, woke you guys up and said, hey, we got to go and be a little bit more aggressive here.
Nobody senses the moment, whether it's especially end game. And this was kind of end game, because if you don't get a good start in the second half, you're going to lose the game. He knows when he's got to go make a play for us. And those 2 plays were great. And then we had Blake driving, and we got to the bonus quick because we were driving the ball after 2 or 3 passes instead of a more methodical motion, which has been good to us at times too.
I want to ask you about the foul trouble that played a factor on both sides, but for them, they're bigs. They were missing two guys coming in, and Karnick and Van Bon, they were struggling to really defend you, I thought. And I thought your team did a great job of sensing when those guys got in foul trouble and trying to get their bigs out of the game. Was that a message you were kind of imploring to them? Like, hey, you get one of those guys out on the perimeter, go at them, because you foul them out in a hurry.
Yeah, I thought, we really were four guards. It was either Nate or Paul as our only big for most of the second half. And then you have the ability to really open the floor and drive it. And you put their bigs in some tough situations. But we were playing faster offensively. We weren't as methodical, moving the ball in motion. I thought we had to get like our edge back and go. Then our building came alive, and it helped our defense.
So let's talk about deep in the second half. I'm always curious. Give Boston College credit. I mean, they had a ton of reasons to not show up for this one. They gave you another great punch. They're up 80-75 going into the final media timeout. I feel like there's always a big timeout in these close games, whether it's home or on the road. What was the message there? Because I always think if you're down by more points than there's minutes left in the game, it's time to be on edge a little bit. You're down 5 with 4 minutes left. What were you guys talking about?
We kind of went back to, hey, fellas, how many times have we been here before? And I actually said, we were in worse shape at Pittsburgh than this. Yeah. It was 8, I think, with 3 minutes. I said, so come on. Like we got to get in here and guard. There's a lot of possessions, so we don't need to take bad shots. Let's move it, drive it, and make plays. And then there is a belief about this group that they are going to find a way. It's not something you can necessarily coach. It has to kind of, just develop, and then you got to have some guys that have a swagger that make you believe. We've got a number of guys that kind of make each other believe like we're going to figure out how to get out of here tonight with a win.
Out of the timeout, I thought one of the stories was how clutch you guys were at the free throw line. You guys shot 85% in the game. I believe you matched the most free throws you've taken in a game in maybe 8 years since that 5 overtime game. Nate Laszewski hits the 1-and-1. Then Blake Wesley gets him an easy basket. Then Wesley gets a steal, gets down to the other end, and suddenly it's an 80-80 game. Those few possessions to make it a tie game with 2.5 left. How impressive was that from your guys out of the timeout?
Yeah, and it was almost kind of like this is what we do. There was no panic. There's never been panic with this group through this starting back, I really think, in early January. And we have been in some tough situations. There have been poise, and here's what we're going to do. Our free throw, our ability to make free throws has always been a great weapon for us. And when we can get to the line sooner rather than later in a half, it really helps.
You mentioned the free throws. Everybody hit him. Cormac Ryan hit 2 big ones. Atkinson hit 2 big ones. So I want to talk the final few seconds of regulation here. It's 84-84, and Blake Wesley's the guy with the ball. He ends up making a great move to the rim, gets blocked, but the perseverance to get the rock back and put it back up and in. What did you see on that play?
Well, I mean, we were trying. He was getting in there at the end, so let's open the floor up for him to make some plays. And he chases that ball down with the nose for the ball. In hindsight, I wish I would have called timeout there to get our defense organized, because what happens, everyone's in chaos mode. And Boston College did a great job of taking advantage and going coast to coast and getting a layup. Having said that, we still had the last shot, and we really executed well. Paul ball screen for Blake at half court, and when he rose up, I thought, that's the Kentucky shot. Yeah. We're going to walk out of here. And he missed a good one, but I love that we were in overtime. I think we felt, and I think Boston College felt, if we can't win in regulation, we could be in trouble. And I know we felt, now we got a chance to win the 5-minute period.
They were running out of bodies at that point. I wanted to ask about the timeout thing, because I was curious about that, because you called it in overtime, which we'll get to in a second. And the play you did run after they called timeout with 8.2 seconds, we're going to look at in Irish Intel, because it was a great play. The ball just didn't go down. As a coach, there's so much going on. What goes through the head? How do you know, okay, I'm going to call a timeout here, or I'm going to let them play? And then it sounds like after the game you reflect and say, that was a spot I maybe could have called one. Yeah. How do you self-evaluate in those situations?
Well, I mean, I think I'm doing it in the midst of the game, because I'll sit down on a bench, and after they scored, we get to the overtime, I said, God, is that a situation like Kentucky, even though we defended that? Nate and Cormac got back, but it was chaos. When you take the lead, and you're down there and they're racing it, do you call timeout not only to set your defense, but give the coach a chance to set up a play which may stall their guys? Because I think in chaos, that's when you get laid up on. And we only had 3 guys back. Somebody was guarding somebody at half court. it's hard to coach that in the midst of it. So yeah, I'm self-evaluating, walking to the overtime huddle like, God, dude. But we did get the last shot, and we got a great one, and I felt really good. And we felt really good about, I think we can play another 5 minutes better than them.
I thought it was great shot making all night. It was a fun game to be at. So you get to overtime, and I thought both teams, suddenly defense was the name of the game. There were no field goals in the first 3 minutes of overtime. Again, though, you guys got to the line and made the free throws. I think a game like this, it was deep in the contest where you have tired legs, you're shooting so many free throws. It was tough. Your guys stepped up. Another big play where Wesley sets up Laszewski inside. It just seemed like you guys had a little bit more in the fifth or the extra 5 minutes than they did.
I think we did, and our defense really stepped up. And when our student body, the Legion, is loud behind our guys playing D, it helps us, and it rattles the offensive group. We rebounded well, and then we knew, because we were in the bonus, we could just keep driving that thing. And we were driving and getting fouled and scoring from the foul line.
To their credit, they just would not go away. It was a 4-point game. They knocked down a 3 and actually make it interesting. This is an instance, too, where you then let your team play, and Prentice Hub validated that decision with another just great late-game shot. It just seems like if the game's tight late, you guys are never going to have an issue with Prentice Hub putting it in his hands, because almost always he comes through for you.
He has been fabulous. Nobody senses the moment better than this guy. There's no question that Blake Wesley and Cormac, having some other guards out there, has taken something off of him. Dane being a little more of a guard too. But he knows when we need it, and I love how he believes in himself. And he deserves it, because it's a fearless kind of personality trait that he has.
He made some really clutch free throws as well to seal the game at the end. So you get it done. You're 12-3, and we've been talking about it more. You hold serve with Duke, and you mentioned, we're going to talk about it when we look ahead, you get a chance to play Wake Forest early on Saturday, maybe put some pressure on them. It's now a 5-game sprint. Just how exciting is this for you as the head coach to be just in the thick of things with Duke in a regular season title?
I'm so thrilled and proud for our group, to put themselves in this position. We talked all off season about what we need to get better at it. We need to be tougher, and we need to do this, and we need to do that. Check, check, check. They have done it all. The 2 new guys that have come in to help us, Blake Wesley and Paul Atkinson, have given us a lift. It's really, the fabric of our group is really cool to be around. They really, really believe. And I'm going to keep brainwashing them to believe even more.
Coach, appreciate it. When we come back, we'll have this week's installment of Irish Intel on the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's Irish Intel segment, where we go inside the play. Coach, this is at Clemson. After Blake Wesley's gone for 18 points in the first 8 minutes, it seems like the Tigers are really focused on him. He's going to do a great job of setting up Prentice Hub for a wide-open 3.
Well, in this set, it slows us down a little bit. We call this circle. And it kind of grinds us and eventually comes back to a ball screen. He reads it, refuses it, and finds Prentice Hub, who's stood in those corners. We have X's in our practice facility to mark those spots to really kind of knock it down. But this is just a patient, confident, smart offensive possession. The ball screen comes from Paul, and Blake does a great job. He refuses it, splits. Not many guys can do that athletically. And this is where Blake has really grown. He splits this ball screen, gets to the lane. Instead of a tough shot, he's drawn the defense, big-time assist. He gets in there, everybody's helped, and makes a play, and I just think he's really grown in that area.
You mentioned the split, which, of course, is just unique to his athletic ability. But I just think also it shows, like you said, his development. He's made all 6 of his shots. He has every right to go to the rim right here and try to make a highlight, and he has the wherewithal to find the senior who's wide open for 3.
That's the basketball IQ that's really developed with him, and we've worked on with him is, when to shoot and when to be a playmaker. But, here's an example of how he gets his teammates easier shots. That's why they love playing with him.
Okay, Coach, this is the first time this year we're going to watch a missed basket, but I thought your execution here late against Boston College, the shot doesn't go in for Blake Wesley, but to get the look you do with 8.2 seconds, I thought your team really executed well here down the stretch.
Well, we had to get it to one of these 2 guards here to push it for a ball screen, and I like that we got it to Blake, and I think his teammates liked it. Great screen here by Paul. Totally eliminates his guy, and that's the shot that won the Kentucky game. As he's rising up, I'm going, I love it. That's a great one, and we couldn't ask for a better one right here. I mean, we really get a great look, and I'm thrilled we're in overtime because, you know, we were looking like we're going to lose regulation, but really good. Get down and space the floor. Dane and Prentice do it. Nate's in this corner down here. You usually don't get this clean a screen. I mean, we totally eliminate legal screen. And that's Blake, just totally using that there. And now we have got great momentum down the floor, really great momentum. They help a little bit. You know, could you kick it? You can, but that clock is low. And I love the confidence, just like he had against Kentucky, to go up for the win right there. We'll take that any day.
So, Coach, this is in overtime now. You have a 3-point lead. We've talked about how Blake Wesley is able to create a little bit more for his teammates as of late. This is deep in the shot clock, and he's going to get Nate Laszewski an easy basket.
Well, this is what we've really evolved into, understanding what Blake can do at the end of a clock. And Prentice and Cormac tell him to get it. We ball screen, we get the mismatch. He drives the big guy, they overhelp. I mean, just that's wins the game right there. It's gets it to a 2-possession game, but he understands he can beat the big guy who switched. His guy comes back to help. I mean, talk about making it an easy play I think Nate was shocked that he had this easy a layup, but just heads up play by a young guard who's risen as far as basketball IQ and feel for the game.
So, Coach, this is the game-winning basket effectively by Prentice Hub. Again, there's a 9-second differential between shot and game clock, so he's going to take it down. You didn't call timeout here. You're going to call it after the basket goes in. You wanted to let your senior win the game for you.
You know, he's been in this situation, just his body language right here. Like, I got this. He had made a bunch of plays in the second half. I'm going to try and find something. He refuses the ball screen. I mean, tough shot, but he believes. And it's a little bit like the Pittsburgh shot that won the game. I don't know if you could say that was a fundamental basketball camp shot, you know, but this is a guy who knows I am going to find a way to win the game for my team. He's poised with his footwork, right? Little up, step, little under, step. They don't really help, so he's got to get something off. And I just think, you know, we've got that clock down. And, you know, that's just a huge, huge play by a senior guard who, look at he loves the moment. He's addicted to these moments. And God, I love having a senior guard like that.
I want to ask a couple follow-ups. One, if you look at that tape, Blake Wesley was right underneath for an offensive rebound if it doesn't go. You mentioned the shot clock, too. He does a great job of taking it down. So even if this doesn't go, they've got to go in like 9 seconds. And then the last thing I want to talk about is you. You called the timeout. You were adamant after regulation. Okay, I could have called the timeout to stop it. You called it right away. What goes through your head as you try to stop momentum?
Yeah, I just think, you know, now can we get our defense set? And because I kicked myself, I didn't do it at the end of regulation. And I said to the staff, and I told you, I said, if we score, I'm calling timeout. Listen for me. And I actually run to grab him because it's so loud. And then we're able to get our defense set, and we end up getting a steal because our defense is set and we're organized instead of them coming back at us in chaos and maybe throwing in a 3, which they did a bunch in the second half, and we're going to another overtime.
That does it for this week's edition of Irish Intel. When we come back, we'll have Irishography on the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com. So, Nate, you guys are playing really well right now. You're tied for first in the ACC. Just what's been the biggest key to the team's success so far this year?
Yeah, I think definitely, you know, just finding ourselves offensively and defensively. I think earlier in the season, you know, we might have had great games offensively or great games defensively, but sometimes we didn't put it together. But I think we've really found our rhythm, you know, lately in conference play and been able to rattle off some wins.
I want to ask about the defense because you brought it up. The defense has been the focus really since the summer when I talked to Coach Brey and other people with the staff. What have you guys been able to do to change your defensive mentality to get to the point where you guys are really playing consistent defense every single night?
Yeah, I think definitely just, you know, having, you know, being connected, you know, with 5 guys on the floor, you know, rebounding the ball, that's a big key of it too. But yeah, just having great talk, great communication, attention to detail, and just being connected, all 5 guys on the floor at one time.
You're part of a senior class that came in together as freshmen. You had some struggles maybe early on in your career because you guys were playing at a really young age. To now be in your senior season at the top of the conference, how validating is that for you and the rest of the senior class?
Yeah, definitely. You know, when we came in, we definitely took our punches early on, and so, you know, we just stuck together though, kept working. every single year, and so it's been awesome, to see everyone's growth, and then definitely, pair that with a lot more wins this year.
We're talking just a day after the Boston College game, an overtime game where you guys scored nearly 100 points. I just want to know, what's it like after a game like that? What was your takeaway from that finish?
Yeah, definitely, it's not always going to be a pretty game. It was definitely, pretty crazy, demanding, grinding game. They're, a very talented team as well. And, when stuff doesn't, go right, just we stuck together, came in, different timeouts, halftime, talked about what we needed to do and, just grinded it out and did it together, which is awesome.
Something that struck me about the BC game, too, was the crowd was really into it late. Last year, of course, you didn't have fans. It seems like a lifetime ago. To have the fans back this year, to get the boost you've gotten from them, what's that meant to you guys?
Yeah, it's been awesome, to have the fans there, student section, going crazy all the time. When you need a defensive stop or, when you get on the run, other team needs to call a timeout and the place gets, jumping a little bit, it's been awesome, this year, missing that last year for sure.
I want to get an update on your health. You, of course, had that lower leg injury that kept you out of a game a week ago. You've been back on the floor looking a little bit more comfortable. Just where are you in your recovery right now?
Yeah, definitely, just trying to, stay on top of it, meeting with Nixon every single day to get treatment on it. But, it's been great out there. Just having Nixon there has been amazing for me and my treatment. But yeah, just getting comfortable out there, staying on top of it, and just getting better every day.
I want to go back before you came to Notre Dame. When you were making the decision to come play here and go to school here, what went into that decision and why did you pick Notre Dame?
Yeah, definitely. I think, my relationship with Coach Brey was something that I really valued. He, came to see me a lot when I was in high school. I had a great relationship with every coach on the coaching staff too. It wasn't just, one guy recruiting me. They all, welcomed me and made me feel a part of the family. And then when I came on my visit here, I saw the place, obviously the high academics, something my mom always, emphasized with me. So it kind of was the whole package for me.
When you think about your time at Notre Dame, what's maybe something that's had a real impact on you off the floor, not with basketball, that you'll take with you the rest of the way?
Yeah, definitely. I think just the community here. When people come back, alumni or just fans, telling people, oh, my whole family is huge Notre Dame fans. Everybody I know, and so it's been an awesome community to be a part of, and definitely just being a part of the Notre Dame family is something special. You
guys are in the hunt for the ACC regular season title, 5 games left. Just what's the mindset and what's going to be the biggest key to possibly coming away with a regular season title?
I think definitely just taking it one game at a time. We can't look ahead too much. Just looking at every opponent that we have in front of us. Attention to detail on them, and trying to get one win at a time.
Nate, appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
That does it for this week's Irishography. When we come back, we'll look ahead on the Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com. Coach, there's 5 games left in the regular season. You got 2 big ones coming up this week. First, you go to Wake Forest, really tough team. They've only lost twice down there in Winston-Salem. What's going to be the biggest key going into their house?
Well, what a great matchup late in the season. And I don't know if anybody back in November thought Notre Dame at Wake Forest at 1 o'clock on a Saturday in February would be a big one, but it's a big one. They can really score, and they're really gifted offensively. And they're completely different than the Wake team we played last year twice because they got 9 new guys. So I don't know if we can just shut them down. It's going to be one of those games where we're going to have to score to escape, and then we got to deal with Syracuse rolling in here on Wednesday.
Let's talk about Syracuse, but also the fact that then 3 of your Final 4 are here at home. We've talked about it throughout the season, and as we talked about the Boston College game, the crowd was a huge factor. How big is it going to be to play 3 of your Final 4 at home, and how important is that crowd they show up to help your team?
Our home crowd has been fabulous. The Legion, our student body, just off the charts. And we really believe, no matter what the score is, especially in the second half, the energy that our crowd gives us. I need 3 more nights. 3 more nights from our players and our crowd. And I promise you, we can be in real good position on Selection Sunday.
Coach, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. That does it for this week's Mike Brey Show, presented by TireRack.com.